Westplex 107.1. It is, well, Shelley, are you there?
I am here. Didn't you hear it come across the airwaves?
Yes, I did. I was just wondering. But Shelley,
I'm like, I'm here. And I'm like, of course.
Are you here? Are you here? Are you here? Are you ready?
Are you here? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Man. Crazy day. We got lots of stuff to talk about this morning. All sorts of interesting things. Weather. Yesterday, man, yes, boy, what is it with this weather we keep getting? Yesterday was like so depressing. I mean, is that just me, or is that like sort of a universal thing where it's like it's sort
you mean the great bucket of sock?
Well, and then last night the fog, and even some fog this morning, so be careful out there in certain spots.
It was foggy when I came home yesterday about 6 o'clock.
It's like fog. You know, it's like, come on, can't we get a break? The official weather forecast looks something like this. It is going to be, if I can find it, it is going to be a cold day today. Well, not cold, not necessarily cold. For this time of the year, probably right around right. 42 for the high, 37 right now. And guess what? It's going to be overcast all day long. Maybe there's just a possibility of the sun coming out like right before it sets, if that makes any sense. At like 4 o'clock, we may have some sun, but other than that, it's going to be overcast. But
I bet you we're going to have some sun around noonish.
I don't know. Weather wizards don't think so, but, you know, we'll have to talk to Jennifer
Wojcicki
and find out what she says. Lots of stuff going on in the news today. You know, I guess the interesting thing is the Democratic, presidential dealie. Have you heard the latest polls?
The Democratic presidential dealie.
Yeah,
It sounds like something I would say, Brad.
The primary,
oh my gosh,
or whatever.
Crossed over.
Whatever. Yeah, I've been around you too much. It's wearing off.
Yes, you have.
I'm wearing off. Bernie Sanders is now out in front, and number 2 is Michael Bloomberg.
Really?
And, yeah, in the rearview mirror are all the other ones. And Joe Biden, I don't even think Joe Biden shows up on the radar anymore.
I think your girl Tulsi. I think she's
Tulsi.
Yeah.
She called me last night. You know, she was a little upset, and I talked her through it. I go,
because she's sucking during this campaign?
No, because of the fact that she's mad because of the fact that, Michael Bloomberg. See, it is sort of unfair. I mean, imagine if you're in a race, okay, and let's say it's 4 laps around the track, and, there's like 10 guys running, 10 guys, again, 10 gals, whatever, and, the starter pistol goes off, and then when everybody else is on the 3rd lap, some guy with a lot of money goes up to the judge and says, hey, here's $1 million. Let me in the race right now. And the guy goes, okay, fine. And he gets in ahead of everybody, runs a full lap, and then comes across the finish line and goes, hey, I won. It's sort of like that. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense. But still, she needs to quit whining. If she's going to be the presidential candidate, she needs to quit whining.
Well, I mean, she's my gal. I'm telling you.
I know she is, Brad.
Tulsi, I mean, attractive, smart. She's still a major in the Army Reserve. I mean, she's
You do like a woman in uniform.
She's been deployed a couple times to, I think, Kuwait and Afghanistan, a couple things like that. She's from Hawaii. She's Hindu. She's actually part American Samoan or something like that. I mean, what a fascinating lady, And
so remember that candidate that she wasn't running for the president, but she was running for Senate, I think, and she had the best video.
Oh, yeah. Her? No, she was running for. She was driving the Valerie Plum. She was driving the Chevy Camaro, and she was driving it backwards. Remember that?
Yes,
she was,
girl.
She was driving. She was a CIA agent who supposedly was outed during the Bush administration, and she was driving it, or was it Obama? I can't remember. One of those administrations. Her and her husband were both CIA agents, and she was driving the car backwards. I don't know. It's funny. I'll find out and see how she's doing. If you don't know the ad we're talking about, it's a really well done ad. Looks like looks like a movie trailer. It's so well done. And she's driving this Chevy Camaro, like a SS or something like that, and with a stick, which is interesting, because of the fact that there are very few people that can drive a stick anymore. And I'm not making fun of people, but there are very few, there are very few men who can drive a stick, and even fewer women who can drive a stick, and that's just the way it is. Don't be mad at me because I said that, but it's true. But I
can drive a stick.
My wife was the world's best one at driving a stick because her father, my father-in-law, was he taught his kids to drive on a car with a stick. And he made him take the driver's test with the car with the stick. Now, it's already tough enough. And when you're a kid, trying to do a driver's test and doing parallel parking a whole bit, when you do it with the stick shift, a little bit harder. But anyway,
it's also hard with a truck. So that's what we had Tiffany practice on, is a big red truck.
Really?
Yes.
So the video is her driving down this road in the middle of nowhere backwards. And she comes out and she says something like, and she's, very, very interesting narration. And she goes like, you're probably wondering why I'm driving backwards, because of the fact that I was trained as a CIA agent, and and then at the very end she does like a what they call there's a term for that, where they do I think it's called a bandit stop or something like that, where she flips the car around, she does a 180, jams on the emergency brake, turns the car around, gets out, walks up to the camera, very attractive lady dressed in blue jeans, very tight-fitting jeans, and she makes her pitch for electing her to the Congress. And I think she's doing, I'll have to double check. It's funny, I forgot about that, but you're already going to see some stuff like that. I mean, and I think sometimes, and you and I have talked about this, when we do commercials for clients, some of my most effective commercials have been really dull and boring commercials for clients, at least as far as the results they get. And some of my least effective commercials have been very creative ones. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's something to be said for thank you and here's my dress, and we own our building and lot, and for a hole in your roof or a whole new roof. I mean, there's something to be said for that. But,
it is. Yes.
Who knows? Baseball? Are you even interested in spring training? Do you have any interest in that whatsoever? I
don't.
Okay. NASCAR? Man, they got rained out on Sunday. Did you see the finish?
No, I didn't. I'm still I'm still absorbing the whole presidential pace car.
And you thought I was kidding about that yesterday. If you didn't listen to the show, I told Shelley, hey, you're not going to believe it, but President Trump was at the Daytona 500 and gave the opening announcement and gave the, gentlemen, start your engines and all that kind of stuff. And then he got into the presidential limousine and he was the pace car. And Shelley's going, no, that's BS. Brad, you're pulling my leg. That's BS.
Now I ask everyone, doesn't that sound like something that Brad Hildebrand would come up with? I mean, really, if you think about it, doesn't that just sound like him? Okay, go on.
The interesting thing is, in business now, it's all about disruption. Uber, Facebook. I mean, the situation we're in right now. I mean, people think that, like, we go out and try to sell advertising station. People go, oh, nobody listens to radio anymore. Okay, well, the only problem with that is that 93% of the adult population listens to the radio on a weekly basis, which beats everything, including the internet. But it's tough to get that thought across. But there are some businesses that have just been decimated, like you used to be in the taxi business, right? Taxi business is in terrible shape.
Yes, it is.
Because of Uber and Lyft. And
yes.
And I think it's interesting. I heard somebody say this the other day, and funny, I didn't mention this to you because of the fact I thought you'd find it interesting. And he said the reason why Uber and Lyft has been so successful is that in the old days, if you got a cranky, crabby taxi driver who was not very friendly, and maybe even yelled at you, and maybe took you the long way to boost his fare to where he picked you up from and where he dropped you off to, all those dropping prepositions, whatever or whatever. Anyway, you couldn't do anything about it. But with Uber and Lyft, if you got a crabby driver, you just gave them 1 star. Or I don't know if can you give no stars? I don't know how that works.
No, I think you need to give them some kind of star.
A lot of things, like if you go on Amazon, you can't give 0 stars. You can give.
And for the record, air flight cab taxi drivers, they were never grumpy, not to the passengers, and they were always just top notch.
But think about it for a minute.
I'm just going to say that.
If you lived in New York, how many times did people complain about the taxi drivers? And I'm not make fun of them. You couldn't understand what they were saying.
New Yorkers are rude by nature.
Well, but the taxi drivers are even worse. And the idea being is that if you have an Uber or a Lyft driver and he's rude and mean to you, you just give him bad rating, and then people look, oh, I don't want him. Oh no, I don't want that guy. I mean, and it's to the point where
you have to figure that in New York, the taxi drivers pay over $100,000 for their medallion.
Yeah, but not anymore. That's a thing of the past because because all the rich.
Is it? Did they take that statute away?
No, that wasn't what the city charged. That was what the open market charged, because there was only so many medallions, and it got to be to the point where that's why some of these rich guys got themselves in trouble, because they bought medallions, then they would lease them or rent them to taxi drivers.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they became a lot less, worth than they were. But once again, it's people. It's to the point where I mean, that's just life. If you buy a house in a neighborhood, and I guess I could probably say this, that, my mom and dad built a house in North County. And my dad was a civil engineer and built a house that if you picked that house up by the roots and moved it to Maryland Heights, Creve Coeur, Chesterfield, Frontenac, that would be a $500,000, $700,000 house. And that house sold for $27,000. And to the point where, what are you going to say? Well, that's not fair. Well, how did the people in West County who bought a small house like in Maryland Heights 30 years ago that they paid maybe $50,000, $60,000 for, now it's worth $300,000? Why is that fair? Hey, that's just life. I mean, you make some mistakes and hopefully you move on from that. And, one of those things. And to the point where there are no guarantees. I mean, I say that all the time. God, I used to have clients, I don't have that as much anymore, but I would have clients say to me, can you guarantee me this advertising is going to double my business? And I would look at them and I'd start smiling like, can you guarantee me you're not going to walk outside today and get hit by a meteorite? And they'd go like, what? I go, can you guarantee me that you're not going to be in a car accident within the next week?
Why do you say stuff like that? That just drives me crazy.
Because once again,
you put that stuff out in the universe. It's bad juju, Brad.
But you can't guarantee anything. I mean, you can't. Can you guarantee me that tomorrow you and I will be here? No, because something could happen to both of us. I mean, we could be in Freddy's, and the guy could get on, the PA system, and he could turn up the system so super loud, and he could get on there and he could say,
"Yes, number 290 orders now. Ready, please? Guest number 290."
And he could have the sound system turned up so loud that our eardrums would burst and we'd bleed to death on the floor in Freddy's. I mean,
okay, that was a little graphic. Oh, look, it's 6:20.
What do you mean that was graphic?
It was. Really?
it didn't.
What kind of positive thought does that bring on a wonderful Tuesday morning? It is Tuesday, right?
It didn't bring the topic in a sharp focus for you?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'm losing my touch as a communicator.
No, you're not. That's the thing. You know exactly what you're saying.
No, I don't. Well, come on now. When someone says to you, can you, I mean, like, let's say you work at Home Depot and you work in the tool department, and a guy comes in and says, hey, ma'am, if I buy this hammer, will it make my house beautiful? And what are you going to say?
What I would say and what I would say on the air are two different things.
Okay, what would you say to him in person?
I can't say.
Well, I mean, but get what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, I do.
I mean, it's to the point where it's like, okay, that doesn't work that way. I mean, and think about it. I mean, you got people that go to the prestigious, colleges, Yale and Harvard. And just because they go there doesn't necessarily mean they're going to succeed. There's a lot of drunks, and drug addicts that graduated, that were Harvard and Yale graduates who are like, living on the street. And yet they're people that went to Skukuka and are making gazillion dollars. You know what I mean?
Well, all I know is that, so I have a friend that her kids have, they're both, they both set out on a different path, but it wasn't the prestigious schools they went to, but the schools were lovely and effective and gave a good, wholesome scenario for being away from home. And they have learned fabulous things.
But are they successful?
Well, the one is, and then the daughter is still in school.
Well, I've done a 180, and you get upset when I talk about this. I've done a 180, and I think for the most part, college is a joke.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Yeah,
because I do, and the reason for that is because I would not have gotten as far in my federal career if I didn't have schooling behind me.
But see, that's different. There's so many people that if you go
That's not different.
No, it is different, because if you go to school and you get a degree, let's say you go to school and you go to law school and you're an attorney, okay? You can't be an attorney unless you go to law school, okay? You can't be like your daughter. Your daughter can't be a registered nurse until she goes for her nursing degree. She's going to get her bachelor's degree in nursing, okay?
She's graduating in April.
Can't, just like I can't walk into a hospital today and say, yeah, I'd like a job as a nurse. And they go, well, are you a registered nurse? No, I'm not. Do you have the education? No, I know. Well, I'm sorry, we can't hire you. That's different. But in my industry, in this industry we're in right now, I mean, a degree, worthless. You know, they don't care.
That's why I call you a mic monkey.
Well, they don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares. I mean, if you're on air, they want you to be the best you can be, best talent for the least amount of money. And if you're working as a salesperson, they don't care if you dropped out of school at 6th grade. If you can sell advertising, you got a job. I mean, just like I more and more I think about it. Gary Vee, his comment is, he says, parents, if you're not sending your kid to one of the top 10 colleges in the country, you're wasting your money. Because
I disagree with
because
that.
if you're not going to Harvard or Yale or whatever the top 10 are, Stanford, whatever the ones are, and think about it for a minute. You know, you get all these people in government, all these Supreme Court judges. When's the last time we've had a Supreme Court judge that went to SLU Law School or to Washington U Law School? Never. Or like Southern Illinois University Carbondale Law School. No.
Wash U is pretty up there, but as is SLU.
Not SLU I think is out of the top 100 now. Wash U is like 25, 26. It's not top 10. It's not Harvard. It's not Yale. It's not Princeton, or Columbia or whatever those places
But you
are.
went to Wash U Law. You're in.
No, you're not.
Oh.
Not a Supreme Court judge. There's never been one. There's never been, because there's tons of them.
That doesn't mean that that's not going to change.
Yeah, but once again, where do they come from? They come from Harvard. They come from Yale, places like that. Look at all the important people, and to the point where do you ever see somebody who says, yeah, I graduated from Southwest Missouri State when it used to be, remember, I don't know if you know that why they changed the name.
Why?
Multi-directional school.
I don't understand that.
Southwest. It wasn't Southern Missouri, it was Southwest. So in other words, in the pecking order, anything that is a multi-directional Southwest is deemed to be like a second-class university, and it's and that was told to me by a guy that his son was going to play football there. And he got a scholarship, and he says, oh, I'm not, my son's, this is before they changed it to Missouri State. He says, my son's not going there. I go, why's that? He says, well, it's a multi-directional school. And I looked at him, I go, what? Same thing like you. I go, what? He says, well, Southwest, it's multi-directional. He says, there's a pecking order in universities, and if you're a big university.
A subculture.
Well, no, not a subculture, just a pecking order. In other words, the idea being is that if you go to a school that's Southwest, that's like, okay, that means there's a bunch of schools in Missouri, and that's not the big one, that's one of the small ones. That's why Northwest Missouri State changed their name to Truman, because of the fact that people, Northwest, that's not good. You want the big dog. You want Missouri. That's what you want. You don't want.
Truman's been Truman ever since I can remember.
No. It was Northwest. When you were in your, let me think, how old are you? You're 20 now. It was when you were about 6 or 7. So.
I act like I'm 12, but I'm 20.
You talk too much. We got to take a break.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Westplex 107.1. You can take 2 words and turn it into an entire song. My way. 104.0. Excuse me. What am I saying? 6:36. It is. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah. Weather's coming up with Jennifer
Wojcicki.
Smartest woman in the world just texted me. The legislation for Northeast Missouri State to change it to Truman was drafted in 95. Officially, it changed names in 1996. So it was, in well within your lifetime, although only by a year.
Well, so I had never heard of it when it was
Northeast Missouri.
Dual city, what'd you say?
Multi-directional.
Multi-directional.
Yes. I mean, I have to tell you, if you don't know what we're talking about, last break we talked about the fact that I had a friend of mine, his son was was a football player, good high school football player, and was getting recruited by a bunch of colleges, and he got recruited by Southwest Missouri State, which is now today Missouri State. And he said to me, I'm not sending my son there. That's a multi-directional school. And I go, multi-directional? And the point he made was that It's Southwest. And when you think about it, because we were talking about the fact that I've adopted a new philosophy that education is sort of a waste. You go to college, you get all that debt and the whole bit. What does it get? You get nothing. And quite honestly, except for a few professions, but even still nowadays, I mean, you graduate with like an accounting degree, you still got to, start from the bottom up. You don't walk into a, job. And now to the point where the thing they're concerned about with, all the different possibilities of, the healthcare system being totally overhauled if Bernie Sanders would become president. Why would you want to be a doctor? Why would you want to beat your head against a wall and study for 5 years, 3 years in medical school and then 2 years in internship and residency and all that kind of stuff? Why would you want to do that if you're going to make like $60,000 a year? I mean, you can manage a Taco Bell and make $100,000 a year.
Doctors don't make $60,000 a year. There
are some of them coming out who are not doing very well. I know a friend of mine is a doctor, and she told me the whole story about how it's not nearly what it used to be because, once again, the reason for that is most of the doctors, their practices have been bought up by the healthcare chains and by the hospitals, and they can't just make as much money as they used to be able. They get paid like a salary. Okay, you're a doctor, and I know one person that I've kept track of through the years that I knew from way back when. And she took a job. She's a doctor. She took a job with the VA. And you know what her philosophy was? Hey, I go to work at 8 o'clock. I leave at 5. I don't work weekends. I don't take calls. I'm never on call. I love it. I go, well, you make a lot of money?
Plus,
No.
she gets a great pension.
Yeah. She said, I said, you make a lot of money? No. But you know what? It is what it is. She says, I don't need money anymore. I'm happy. I know. I go, well, didn't you get into being a doctor? Yeah, I did, but, it changed. I just, show up for work my 5 days a week, and I get lots of vacation time, and I get weekends off. I can go wherever I want. I'm never on call. I go, interesting.
Or they become concierge.
Right. Well, but still, but that's even that's even worse for them because then they take calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To the point where if you're a concierge doctor, people have your cell phone number and they text you and they call you and stuff like that. But and
yeah, but you have a guaranteed clientele.
Well, yeah, but still, it's not like you're going to
people
work.
That want to be with you as opposed to, oh my God, this is the only insurance company that's going to cover.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it's not like working for for the VA where you're working 9 to 5. You're working 40 hours a week, and you leave the place at 5 o'clock, and you don't care. I'll be back tomorrow. See you tomorrow. That kind of thing. Anyway, how do we get talking about this?
I don't know. Why do you get off on these tangents?
It's you. You're the one.
I didn't say anything. I haven't hardly even spoke this morning.
It's all you. It's all you. Sometimes I wish would happen with you.
Yes, I do, Brad.
Okay, this is what?
I got bronchitis.
And then you couldn't talk.
That's true. But if I sounded like that, I'd probably be in the hospital. Because that woman does have bronchitis.
Oh, whatever. Let's just.
I'm just saying.
Did you get the email I sent you about Billie Jean?
I did. Did I get to watch it?
It's pretty interesting. I mean, you and I need to powwow today after we get off the air because I've got to talk to you about stuff.
Okay.
Something that we're sort of looking forward to. I think it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get off the air.
Yeah, the fact that it looks like I'm not going to be able to go to the White House like I thought I was.
Oh, Brad, I'm sorry.
It just didn't work out,
I know you were really looking forward to that. I am so sorry.
It just didn't work out. That's all there is to it. Okay, we're going to take a break. We will be back. Westplex 107.1, the song that did it for let me try that again. The song that put her on the map, Katy Perry, also known as Katie Hudson. Do you know that's her real name?
I did, only because I've been working with you for 7 years.
And do you know that her dad used to date? Her dad dated.
Kate.
Her mom dated Jimi Hendrix. Do you know that?
Rock on.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. That's
Yes.
kind of cool.
Her mom dated Jimi Hendrix, and her dad used to be one of the devotees of Dr. Timothy Leary, and people who were going like, who's Dr. Timothy Leary?
I know who he is.
Dr. Timothy Leary was this doctor, I think he was a medical doctor, back in the 60s and 70s that essentially said, hey, you can cure anything with LSD, and was sort of out there and weird and bizarre. And then her mom and dad met, and they got religion, and they both became preachers. And the first album that Katie Hudson ever put out was a Christian rock album. Hard to believe.
Huh.
Yeah. So now you got all that stuff. Okay. What we're talking about before the break. What were we talking about again?
Oh, so many things. We were talking about the multi-directional thing of colleges,
right.
But I don't.
Okay, I'm going to throw one at you, which is totally out of left field. Do you know who Chrissie Hynde is?
I do.
Okay, lead singer for the Pretenders, okay?
Yes.
She recently sent an open letter to Donald Trump. Now,
I saw that.
Did you really?
I did.
Is that unbelievable or what? And
no, it's not unbelievable at all. I say kudos to her.
And she was very nice to him.
Yes.
And here's the interesting story about it is she congratulated Donald Trump on honoring Rush Limbaugh. And you may go, okay, now hold on a minute now. What does Chrissie Hynde and Rush Limbaugh have in common? Interesting story. Well, no, the point, her dad loved the Rush Limbaugh show, but more importantly, the theme song for the Rush Limbaugh, when he starts the hour out, is Chrissie Hynde's and the Pretenders, and the song, I think, what's it called? The name of the song is, I had it here a minute ago.
Something My City?
Yeah, something My City or something like that.
My City is Gone or something like that.
I can't find it. Anyway, she complimented Trump
My City Was Gone.
My City Was Gone. And that's the don't. And what's interesting, at one point in time, she got mad at Limbaugh, and she took the rights away from him to play that song as his theme song. And he had another song that he used for a while, and they negotiated with her because she wrote the song, so she controlled the copyright of the song. And they negotiated with her, and they found out that her father loved Rush Limbaugh, and they went to her and they said, "Look, talk to your dad and let your dad make the decision on this." So she went and talked to her dad, and her dad says, "Hey, come on, let Rush use that song, because first off, A, it's one of my favorite radio shows, and B, it's my daughter. So how good can it get when my daughter is doing the theme song for the show and the guy that I love?" So anyway, she wrote an open letter. It was on Twitter to President Trump, congratulating him, because there's been a lot of people who have said, "Oh, that's terrible. I can't believe that he gave that medal to Trump." I mean, not Trump, to Limbaugh, because Limbaugh is such a polarizing figure. And once again, I say in the radio business, you know what? There's this knob. And, well, at least in some radios, it's still there. Sometimes it's just like you push an icon on a screen or something like that. But it's called the on-off button. And if you don't like it, turn the radio off or tune to another station. Nobody's forcing you to listen to Rush Limbaugh. Nobody's forcing you to listen to anything. If you don't want to listen to it, just turn it off. Or like my mom, who wants...
Or just have the radio taken out of your car.
Well, no, she just didn't have one put in. She'd order the cars with no radio in it because she hated the radio. And she never once listened to me on the radio. Isn't that something? Never once.
You say that, but
it's true.
I don't know. I'm sure she probably
she never
squeaked
did.
it in and never let you know.
I'm telling you, if like when I was a kid, like I did before I had. Well, actually, I had my own car when I was 15, but that's a whole other story. But if I drove her car, and then let's say she got in, and because I'd always leave the car on, the radio on. You turn the ignition, radio comes on. Wait, what else is? That's the way it should be, right? And she would get mad at me about that. She'd go, when you use my car, will you make sure and turn the radio off after you're done? Okay. Because she hated that. She hated radio. Hated it with a passion. Maybe that's why I went into radio, just to tick her off, right?
That's why I started smoking.
So anyway, it's interesting because Chrissie Hynde for a while was a very vocal non-supporter of Rush Limbaugh and Donald Trump, but it's amazing how things change. So I thought that was sort of...
It is. Things do come full circle.
Well, it's one of those things where you read about it and you go like, wow, she's thanking the president? When I first read the article, I thought, this has got to be like The Onion, this isn't like a real article.
Yeah.
I
can see where you would say that.
Right. This is like, no, there's no way she's complimenting the Trump, because who compliments Trump, It's, and once again, it's to the point where I heard somebody else say this, and they said, if you want the Super Bowl of elections, it's going to be Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, can you see them in a debate? And now
I can only imagine what Bernie Sanders would say in response.
Well, the big rumor over the weekend is that Michael Bloomberg has asked Hillary Clinton to be his vice president.
Shut up.
I swear. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the fact that Michael Bloomberg has talked with her and said, if I get the nomination to be the Democratic candidate for the presidency, I want you to be my vice president.
Okay, so that will do one of two things. That will put him over the top, or that will push him to the bottom.
Well, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, at a point where people either go like, my God, yes, Michael Bloomberg and Hillary Clinton, what a great pair. But and get this. They also, this article that I read over the weekend talked about that he's considering changing his residency because he lives in New York, changing his residency to his ranch in Colorado because they think that it would be a negative that the president and the vice presidential candidate both came from New York. So in other words, that would mean that everybody would well, we're just like flyover country, So the idea being is...
So he's just plain semantics.
Well, he's like, Trump changed his residency from New York to Florida, officially, changed his state his state of residency. So, I mean, wow, can you imagine that too? Hillary again, Trump and Hillary debating? Well, they wouldn't because he's the president, she's the vice president. Anyway, should be interesting. We have to take a break.
Yeah, but remember, Brad,
what?
The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world.
So what do you mean by that?
So she may be the vice president.
Yeah.
But maybe she wouldn't be the vice president.
In other words, she's saying she's in charge when she really isn't. She's like unofficially in charge?
Yes.
Okay.
Never know.
I think we need to get some new blood in. That's why Tulsi Gabbard would be my choice. Tulsi, new blood.
Yeah, because Hillary Clinton's not,
attractive,
not new blood.
Smart, Army officer, all the good things. 7 o'clock.
Yes, I know.
Westplex 107.1. Whoop. She's not supposed to say that. She's not supposed to talk right there. Not that it's because it's just she's not supposed to talk. Shelley knows what I'm talking about, right?
I absolutely know what you're talking about.
Isn't that a great song? Harry Styles. And you know what? It's one of those songs where if you listen to it with the headphones on, you hear all sorts of things that you didn't normally hear.
Such as?
Great background vocals, very little subtle things in the background. If you listen, so many times, if and I've got, I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but I have like Sennheiser headsets, which are like really good, Although I didn't pay for them, but that's a whole other story.
Can I have one?
No, you can't.
Okay.
But you hear things with a good set, a really good set, not the Dr. Dre's, whatever, the ones that's like nothing but boom, 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 but like what they call reference headphones. Sony makes a set like that as well too, which like a lot of recording studio engineers use, and it's just you hear all sorts of things, crazy little nuances in the music that you don't normally hear from speakers. So, see, there you go. It's BS in the Morning. I am Brad. She's Shelley. Shelley, a.k.a. the blonde moment girl or the eccentric woman. That's Shelley was.
Thanks, Brad.
Shelley was telling me this off air that someone said to her, you're a real eccentric and you have lots of blonde moments. So
it was two different people, but yes, that was said.
What were they? Why were they?
Funny.
Why were they saying that to you?
Huh?
Why were they saying that to you?
Well, because I do have a lot of blonde moments. Excuse me.
Yeah. Blonde
moments on the air, and I didn't know that people thought I was eccentric, but they do evidently.
Well, that I don't think there's anything wrong with eccentric. You know what the difference between crazy and eccentric is?
About $1 million. Yes,
exactly. That's exactly what it is. If you're poor, you're crazy. If you're crazy and rich, you're eccentric. That's kind of a deal.
It was just cute, is all. It was just funny.
Couple things to talk about this morning. Lots of things to talk about this morning. The Boy Scouts filed for bankruptcy. Can you believe this?
The Boy Scouts?
The Boy Scouts.
Like the Boy Scouts?
Yes, Boy Scouts of America, BSA, Chapter 11. because of all the lawsuits with the sexual harassment kind of stuff and the sexual stuff with leaders and things like that and all sorts of suits. So they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy to try to reorganize. And yesterday we talked about the Girl Scout cookies.
We didn't talk about Girl Scout cookies yesterday.
Yeah, we did. We talked about
we did not.
I bought a box of them. And
we did not talk about that, Brad.
We did. I went into Schnucks Sunday, and there were the Girl Scouts. And normally, they're early this year. Normally, you don't see them out at the stores till like March. And I walked in. There's the table there, and I love Thin Mints. Okay, and this is how
I was going to say. Did you get Thin Mints?
Yeah, but $5 for a box,
and they've shrunk.
I know. And I said to the lady, who was there with her daughter, and I go, I'm not complaining, but weren't they $4 last year? And she goes, yeah, and the year before that they were $3. I'm going like, man, the Girl Scout cookies have gotten expensive. I remember, God, I shouldn't tell this story.
You remember how long the packs were? They
were.
Yeah. I mean, there was double
shorter.
the product.
They're shorter. Okay, I don't know about double the product. Okay, my niece Carissa. Okay, when she was, this is going way back, and I don't think she's listening, so I can get away with telling this story. So,
just think podcast, Brad.
Okay, well, no, she was Girl Scout.
Okay.
And she called me up one day and she said, "Hey, Uncle Brad, I'm selling Girl Scout cookies. Would you like to buy any?" I go, "Yes, I would." And she says, "How many would you like?" And I said, "I want 100 boxes of Thin Mints." And there's the silence on the end of the phone. She goes, "No, come on, really? Well, how many do you want?" 100 boxes of Thin Mints. And she goes, "Are you serious?" I go, "Yeah." So I said, "Do you want me to pay for them now?" And she goes, No, that's okay. I bought 100 boxes from her. 100.
You're such a good uncle.
And I gave them away. I ate some of them, but I gave them away to clients and stuff like that. So, and that
they are like they're addictive.
Right. They are addictive.
Yes, they are.
Also, last night I heard an interview with Huey Lewis. Huey Lewis in the news?
Yes.
Okay. Fascinating. I learned all sorts of stuff about him. His mom was a hippie, as a self-described hippie, and his dad was a doctor. And, you think of most musicians as not the most, the smartest people in the world. He got a perfect score on his SAT. And his math scores were off the charts, and he got recruited to and he skipped a grade. So he graduated from high school, and he was 16, actually went to a prep school when he was 16. And his dad said to him, and he got accepted at Cornell. He was going to study engineering at Cornell. And his dad said to him, "You need to take a year off." And, and his real name is Hugh, not Huey, but his real name is Hugh. And he said, "Why do you say that?" And his dad says, "You just need to take a year off. And here's what I suggest. You need to just go and travel Europe and busk." You know what busking is?
Is that like going to hostels here and there?
No, busking is like if the guy's sitting on the street corner playing a guitar, or like playing the drums and stuff like that. They're busking. In other words, they're doing something.
Panhandling.
Well, not panhandling. They're playing, and they want you to give money, because they're playing a musical instrument. Or there's guys like down at, like when you go to any of the hockey games, things like that. There's guys out there playing their saxophones and stuff like that, and they got a tip jar out. Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on, maybe I'm not. Okay. Anyway, so he went to Europe and with little or no money, and he traveled Europe for an entire year doing nothing but raising money by playing his harmonica at various places. He'd go talked about he sat in one of the city centers in Seville, and he'd just play his harmonica and people would come up and give him money. He did it for a year. And then he came back to the United States, went to Cornell for 2 years and dropped out, and then became a full-time musician. And didn't make any money. Said he was like flat broke till he was 30.
Well, 30's not bad.
Yeah, but now he's like, he had one of the biggest selling albums of all time, and they're still, God, I saw them at the Town and Country Fair, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they were really good, and he was still really good. He's got a great voice, and like a brilliant guy. I mean, you listen to the interview, you're going like, okay, because hey man, we're rock and roll stars, and we like to party, and we like the after party, and then we go to the after party, and the groupies, oh man, the groupies are great. He's not that at all. It's almost like if you listen to.
Is anybody like that anymore?
Oh yeah, there's ones like that. Like I know people like that.
Probably Post Malone.
No,
with his nasty teeth.
You don't like Post Malone. Shelley has this thing for Post Malone. First off,
I have a problem with. Never mind.
Never mind. One day, Shelley met me one day, and she says, "I have something very important to ask you." And I go, "Okay." So she says, "I have to do it in person." Okay, fine. So we met up, and she says, "I find Post Malone's tattoos on his face so attractive. I want you to get your face tattooed, just like Post Malone." I'm going, "Oh, okay."
Well, first of all, that's not an issue to me. So no, I don't think that you should get your face tattooed, Brad. But if you had teeth like Post Malone, I would actually pull you aside and go, Brad, you're my friend. And as a friend, just like if a woman had lipstick on her teeth, I would tell her. If you had teeth like Post Malone, I would say, you need to get some work done. Let's trade that out.
But the tattoos on the face are okay?
You know what? Who am I to judge about, who am I to judge about that? I have a tattoo. It's not on my face, but who am I to judge about that? That's between him and his maker. I don't get involved in all that. But the teeth, he could fix.
I've always...
Because he's a role model.
Yeah, well, so guess what? All the kids are going to have bad teeth now. I want to be just like Post Malone.
I know.
I want to have bad
really
teeth.
Good songs and they have really icky teeth.
Well, you know what? I've never liked any of his music until the latest song. Man, I love his new song.
Yeah, it's a nice song.
We play it, and it's
kind of lovely.
Yeah. But you know what? And you know why Shelley likes it? Because most of Post Malone stuff, Shelley has this thing that she hates men that sound whiny.
Whiny.
Right? She doesn't like whiny men singing.
I don't.
Yeah. So.
Not when they're singing a song.
I just said whiny men singing, and you said not when they're singing a song. Okay, let me think about that for a minute.
I don't like them whining while they're singing the song.
Let me process that. That was one of your blonde moments?
There are so many, and so, my friend that told me that was spot on.
It was one of your...
And, actually, people do think I'm blonde if they've never met me.
You're like Katy Perry.
Why am I like Katy Perry?
Katy Perry's really blonde.
Well, I'm not blonde, but people. So when I was in the cab business, we had an insurance broker that my daddy used for years. I had never met them, so when I took the business over, whenever I had an insurance issue, I would sit there and call him on the phone. Well, I had never met this man, and we had been doing business for years. And then I'm like, you know what? We need to meet. So I met him, and he was taken back because I was a brunette. And I said, he goes, Shelley, I got to be honest, I thought you were blonde. And I said, why? And he said, because whenever I talk to you, you sound like you were smiling.
Like you were smiling.
And I was extra friendly.
Hey, that's, a DJ can sound like that. We can sound like, hey, I've got a smile on my face. Hey, Shelley, it's good to be on the air with you. I love being on the air with you. And I love
Brad,
it because...
it's good to be on the air with you.
Because you have your blonde moments and you're eccentric. Hey.
I do.
It's time to take I'm smiling. It's time to take a break. We got to play some music, girl. We
721.
We got to play the tunes. 721. Westplex 107.1. Promise me no promises. Interesting line. 725. It is BS in the morning. I am B. She is S. Or did we get that right? She's Brad. I'm Shelley. BS in the morning.
It's close enough.
BS in the morning.
Close enough for government work.
BSinthemorning.show is our web address. You can check out our station at westplex1071.com. The Daytona 500 was yesterday. You're going to say, what? I thought it was Sunday. Well, they tried to run the race Sunday, but it got rained out. So they rescheduled yesterday. An unbelievable finish, very sad finish, as Ryan Newman was coming around in the lead, the final lap. He got spun out. His car hit the barrier, spun around a few times, flipped over, went flying down the track upside down, and then caught fire. and they pulled him out of the car. He was in serious condition. The last report is that no life-threatening injuries, but it didn't look, things don't look good for him. Serious condition is not good. So talking about a crazy end to, and keep in mind, was it 18, 19 years ago when Dale L. Earnhardt was killed, pretty much sort of like the same thing. I think he was like in the final lap of the Daytona 500. So,
Yep.
Racing is dangerous. Have you ever wanted to do that? You ever wanted to be a race car driver?
I have not.
I should say
I've wanted to fly a helicopter, though.
I should say you already are a race car driver. The way every time if I get in a car with Shelley, it's like, oh my God. Hey, and I said
he starts like pumping on the floor like he's pumping on the brake. He sits there and he like starts grabbing for the dashboard. He's such a baby.
I'm going to, next time Shelley drives me anywhere, I'm going to make sure I take my crash helmet with me and put it on. And maybe
and your 5-point restraint.
Yeah, maybe I'll put on my Nomex suit, so that when we crash and catch fire, that at least I won't die of burns suffered from, the gas tank exploding on Shelley's car. She drives like a crazy woman.
I do not.
I mean,
just because you drive 40 in a 65 doesn't mean that I drive like a crazy person when I'm driving the speed limit.
You and Bill Moyer. Oops, I said his name. Now I can't. You know who Bill Moyer is, right?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that. Now you can't say anything.
Okay, I can say something. Here's this guy, works at another radio station, okay? And I notice him because he drives by me all the time, doing like 40 miles an hour over the speed limit, driving the station vehicle. And it's happened like, I don't know how many times in the last 6 months. I'm driving along, and here, zoom, he zooms by me. I mean, one day, he must have passed me doing 100 miles an hour on I-70 out in St. Charles. And I texted him, and I go, Bill, are you in a hurry? And the next day, he calls me back, hey, man, I'm so sorry. I was going to the hospital. I go in the hospital? Yeah, one of my relatives got shot. I go, what? And the other day, he passed me again, just like last week. I'm doing like 90 miles an hour, like that's
so
like
the
Shelley.
Other relative got shot.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, Shelley, one day I'm driving along 364 and she goes flying by me. I'm doing the speed limit, I mean, I do the legal, illegal speed limit. If it's
40?
No.
Minimum 40?
If the speed limit's 60, I'll do like 63, 64, 65, 66, maybe 67 if I'm feeling really, dangerous.
Spunky?
Yes. And she went by me like I'm standing still, and I texted her. I go, hey, how fast you going? And she didn't, at first she's like, ooh. I go, you passed me like about a mile back. I mean, just zipping along.
What can I say? I do the speed limit, Brad.
I did get pulled over one time, and I got out of a ticket.
How?
One time I was going real fast.
And?
I never told you this story?
No.
About 10 years ago, I was driving way too fast. I got pulled over by a cop, and the cop was, a little bit of a jerk to me. And, and as he walked up to the, window.
Did you say, do you know who I am?
No, I would never do that. I'd never do that. And he walked up
that gets him.
No, he walked up to the window and, and started, hey, you know how fast you're going? I go, yeah, I think I do. And he goes, what's the deal? I said, officer, I have to tell you something right now. I've got a loaded gun in my glove compartment. And he sort of looked at me, and he says, you do, huh? I said, yep. And matter of fact, there's a dead body in the trunk.
Ugh.
And he looked at me, he goes, what? He says, out of the car. So he gets me out of the car and, handcuffs me, and he calls for, backup, and his supervisor shows up. And, they go through my car, and they go in the glove compartment, and there's no gun. And they go in the trunk, and there's no dead body. So the supervisor comes up to me and he says, hold on a minute. You told my officer there was a loaded gun in your glove compartment. I said, there's no gun there. And I go, I know. And he says, then you told my officer there was a dead body in your trunk. And he says, there's no dead body in your trunk. And I go, I know. And I said to him, and the next thing your officer's probably going to tell you is I was speeding.
Oh, yeah, I waited for the end to that.
7:30. Westplex 107.1, 737. It is BS in the Morning. This is the radio station, Westplex 107.1. Website is westplex1071.com. Our website for the morning show is bsinthemorning.show. I am Shelley. She is Brad. Weather's coming up with Jennifer.
Wojcicki.
In just a minute. News came out yesterday that Chesterfield Mall has been sold to a group of local investors who are going to redevelop it. Do you hear one of the things they're going to do out there?
They're going to make a concert venue.
That's part of it, but they're going to put in a big parking garage with like really high ceilings, and it's going to be called the food truck garage. And they're just going to have nothing like floors and floors and floors of food trucks.
Is that true?
No, I made it up. Sounded good.
I'm not betting you anymore. I'm still $50 in the hole.
Yeah, because yesterday I made the comment that at the Daytona 500 that President Trump in the presidential limousine was the pace car for the Indy 5 or the Daytona 500, and Shelley, there's no way that's the truth. And then I sent her the video. And it was true. He was the pace car in what they call the Beast. Anyway, Chesterfield Mall. You don't believe that one? Don't you think that'd be a cool idea? A big parking garage with nothing but food trucks?
Yeah, I guess. That would be okay.
What they're talking about doing with the Chesterfield Mall location is essentially doing what they've done in St. Charles, what they call Streets of St. Charles, right there at 75th Street, where it's like a little bit of everything. You can live there. There's apartments. I don't know. Are some of those condos? Or are they all apartments? Do you know?
Over at Chesterfield Mall?
No. At Streets of St. Charles.
Those are condos.
Those are condos? There's no apartments there? I thought those were apartments and condos, no?
To my knowledge, they're condos, but I don't know.
Would you want to live there?
I'm not an urban kind of girl. I'm more of a suburb. I'm more of an indoor girl.
Well, that's what the supposedly the new Chesterfield, it's not going to be what they call it, Old Town Chesterfield or something like that.
It's going to be called Downtown Chesterfield.
Downtown Chesterfield. And it's going to be sort of like a combination of all sorts of stuff. I guess, which means, and the article talked about they're negotiating with Macy's. And I wonder what.
And Dillard's.
And Dillard. Well, Dillard's is gone. the building's still there, but
they still own that property.
Right, and Macy's still owns their building, and I don't know what's going on with the old Sears store and the J.C. Penney's. Those are both closed.
They bought it years ago.
Who did?
This company that is buying up Chesterfield Mall.
Oh, they already own the Sears store?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's going to be interesting because that used to be the mall. And then they built all the outlet malls, and they had the dueling brothers with the dueling outlet malls, and one of them's already going under because they're going to convert that one to an entertainment district or whatever.
Which I actually think they bought that one too.
No, I don't think they did. You may be right. I'm not sure. But
I'm sorry. What?
I said. That's what I said. I said. And then I said.
They don't have dog catchers in the government.
And then I said,
I got bronchitis.
Okay. I'm done.
You feel better?
Yeah, I feel much.
You feel better about yourself right now?
I feel much better. And then I said,
okay, good.
A 9th anniversary, and Hugh
not,
Janus
Brad.
turning 10.
There's no way that you could have snuck that one in. I am not kidding.
By the way, I got the notice that my domain name's expiring. Should I renew it?
What do you think?
HUGHJAYNESS.com. Should I renew it or should I let it go? Should I renew it or let it go?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do I stay or do I go?
Chesterfield Mall will be no more, and poor Gateway Electronics, just when they moved in, they're going to get kicked out.
I know. That's right.
Yeah, they just moved in there.
Where are they going to go?
Who knows? I mean, Gateway Electronics, one of my favorite and people are going like, what is that? Gateway Electronics is sort of like...
It is a man's...
Well, it's sort of like...
if you're a geek, you know what Gateway Electronics is.
Well, it's sort of like the Blueberry Hill of electronics places. It's
it is.
The point where
you're absolutely correct. Yes.
People, it's like sort of world famous that people would come to St. Louis, especially if you're geek and go, "Hey, you ever been to Gateway Electronics?" And they used to be down a long time ago. They were in Delmar, then they moved on Page in Veneta Park, and then they moved out to Westport area, and then they moved into the mall, which is like still sort of bizarre, and to the point where I've been out there 2 or 3 times recently to buy some parts, and you sort of walk in there and it's like, okay, this is weird. I'm going
Why
to the
don't they
mall.
come out here? There's plenty of room at Oh my goodness. Over at Mid Rivers Mall.
Well, I don't think the lady who owns it, her father passed away, and the lady who owns it, I can't remember her name. I don't think she wants to cross the river. There's some people that still think the river is like
the Green Bridge.
It's like a moat. You know what I mean? They're like, once you cross, it's just like, once you go into St. Charles County, you're like in no man's land. Like I've told the story when I first moved to St. Charles County years ago. I told my boss, Ron, who you met, Ron Grubbs.
Yes, he was lovely.
And he came up and he says, "Hey, I hear you're buying a house in St. Charles County." And I go, "No." I said, "No." He said, "I hear you're buying a place in St. Charles County." I go, "Yeah, I am." And he looks at me and he smiles and he says, "Are you getting a single wide or a double wide?"
That's funny.
Yeah, a little bit snooty. Once again, that West County attitude,
Well, when I grew up in Clayton, and when they moved me out to NoCo back in the 70s,
Right.
I thought they were moving me out there with the cows and the pigs.
Well, I spent 2 years of my youth on a farm, so I don't know if I ever told you that story. I lived on a farm for a while. Way up in North County. I mean, to the point where if you couldn't go
So
any...
you're like McBride?
You couldn't
or McHildebrand?
No, you couldn't go any further.
Old McHildebrand had a farm. E-I-E-I-O.
I used to chase, when the pigs get loose, they used to chase the pigs around. You couldn't get any further north than this because when you got to the edge of our property was the Missouri River. I mean, we're talking north County. Like I said, I mean, the northern edge of our property was the Missouri River. So, way the heck up there, Spanish Pond. But, back in the day. But, it's to the point where I still remember I had a client years ago by a guy named Dennis Dunker. And I mean, actually sort of a funny story. He wasn't from here. He's from Iowa. And one day he calls me and he says, "Hey," I need to have lunch with you. And I go, "Okay." And he had a dealership up in North County. At the time, he was in the old Bellman place there on Lindbergh in Florissant. And he says, "Okay," he says, we would go to dinner, and he says, lunch. And he says, "What I got to tell you is it's just between you and me." And I go, "Okay." He says, "I got a chance to buy," at the time it was called Bob Downs Chrysler Plymouth, right there on Mexico Road, right across the street from the old Weather Bureau, where they still have the radar dome. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in St. Peter's.
Right there on Mexico. And he says, "I got a chance to buy that dealership." And I go, "Oh, really?" And he says, "Yeah, and a really good price." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, he says, "Well," he says, "but my partners say that I shouldn't move to St. Charles County because it's nothing but Hoosiers." I go, "What?" He says, "My partners say that anybody in St. Charles County, they're all broke and they don't have all their teeth." I swear to God, that's what he said to me. And I go, "You and I need to take a drive."
That is so wrong.
So where did I take him? I said to him, "Okay, first stop, Whitmore Country Club." So I drove him, I drove him through Whitmore Country Club, and then we went a couple other places, and we're supposed to spend the whole day driving around. And after about an hour, he goes, "Okay, you made my mind up." And the next day bought the dealership. And everybody go, "Oh my God, he's lost his mind. He's moving to St. Charles County." And long story made short, he did very well with the dealership and ultimately sold it and made millions of dollars. So, but once again, it was one of those things where he wasn't from the area and he didn't really, St. Charles County. His friends say, "Oh no, that's a terrible area. You don't want to be there," right?
Yeah, people used to say that. They don't say that anymore, though.
Yeah, it's because Shelley's there. People say,
yes, I'm a determining factor on the rest of their life.
You're moving to Shelleyville? Oh my God, you need that's the place to be. Shelleyville's wonderful.
Shelley's World. It is a nice place to be. I'm not gonna lie.
Weather's coming up. What's her name again?
Jennifer Wojcicki.
7:45. That's next. Westplex 107.1. I wonder how many times they say low in that song. Low, 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 low.
I don't know. Is that the one that they counted?
No, I don't know about that one. It's BS in the Morning. She is Brad. I'm Shelley. BSinthemorning.show. We are broadcasting live from the Allen's Tree Service Studios. You can check out Allen's Tree Service at allenstreeservice.com. And Allen is ALLENS, allenstreeservice.com. They are expert at what they do. You need a tree taken down. You need something trimmed up. Plus, they do, coming up in that time of the year when if you want your lawn to look nice, Allen's can do that for you as well, too. So give them a call or check them out on the web, allenstreeservice.com. Shelley, that's going to do
Brad.
it. It's, another whole 2 hours has just zoomed right by. I mean,
Oh, are we almost over?
Oh, yeah. We only got a couple more minutes. Anything you want to talk about? Any of the topics we talked about today? You insulting various people on the air and making fun of people?
I did not insult
like you normally
people.
do that?
Who did I insult?
Oh, God. I mean, my attorney's already called me and said that somebody's already filed a couple suits against us because of things you've said.
Well, no, that was a couple months ago. But
And today I haven't insulted anybody.
Really?
Except for maybe Post Malone, but he deserves it.
You just don't like that guy, do you? What if I told you I actually know his manager, and I called him up and I go, hey, Shelley doesn't like Post. Can you have Post give Shelley a call? And I gave him your number, and he called him, hey, Shelley, Post Malone. What would you say?
I welcome the call.
What would you say to him?
So I can tell him he needs to get to the dentist.
You tell him that on the phone, right? Hey,
I absolutely would.
Hey, Post, I love your music, but dude, you need to go to the dentist, right? That's what
I would. Yes, I would. I could have given birth to him. It's like his mother talking to him. Let's be honest.
That's a scary thought in itself.
It is. He actually came out with all those tattoos on his face.
Oh man, I tell you what. I tell you what.
What?
I'm laughing. I can't talk. I still don't get the tattoo thing. I don't know. I sound like an old guy, which I am, but.
Well, I mean, it's not my favorite to have it on the face. That's
Yeah, but.
A given, but I mean that's what he does, and that's how he identifies, and that's good. But he does need to get his teeth fixed.
I'm going to make an observation. Why is it that the people with the most tattoos have the least money?
I don't agree with that.
Okay. I mean, in my day, the only people that had tattoos were ex-Marines and ex-sailors.
Well, in my day, the only people that had tattoos were ex-Marines, ex-sailors, and just so you know, there's no such thing as an ex-Marine.
Yeah, I was going to say that. You're right.
But we're bikers.
Yeah, bikers too. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. God. That's when I got my tattoo.
You keep talking about your tattoo. Oh, okay.
I do have a tattoo.
Yeah, and wasn't that the guy on the plane? The plane wasn't his name.
The plane, boss, the plane.
Wasn't his name Tattoo? Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, and it's a picture of him on my shoulder. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely not.
Really. I got a barcode on my arm.
No, you don't. Stop it.
I do.
Don't even joke about that.
I've got You've never seen my barcode tattoo in my arm?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I go through Schnucks and I put my arm down on the scanner and it says cream peas, 22 cents.
Cream peas, 22 cents.
Yeah.
I don't get that joke, Brad. I'm sorry. You're usually pretty funny, but I didn't get that.
7:58. Well, that's going to do it for BS in the morning. You know, I heard something interesting. I gave you the link to that seminar that I watched yesterday.
Yes, I haven't watched it because I just got it this morning.
Okay, very interesting. He said, Billie Jean said, always be the dumbest person in the room.
I've got that covered.
No, seriously. I mean, and it was interesting.
Seriously, I do.
Well, but think about what he's saying, and I thought it was really interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But
to live.
What'd you say? I think you just disappeared. Uh-oh. Shelley's gone. Shelley is gone. Well, we made it this far. So I will say, like Shelley would say, I would say now the most important man in St. Charles County steps to the microphone and says,
I got bronchitis.
No, that's not what he says. The most important man in St. Charles County steps to the microphone and says,
hey people, your mom called. She says to call Extreme Electrical for your residential, commercial, or industrial needs. Give us a call, 636-925-2988, or on the web at extremeelectricalstl.com.
K296 HA Washington, RAP Washington.
Westplex 1071. It's today's best music for the Westplex. Westplex 1071.
Yeah, maybe I'ma get a little anxious. Maybe I'ma get a little shy. 'Cause everybody